second most famous false messiah would be Shabtai Tzvi. Shabtai Tzvi lived during the 1600s. Shabtai Tzvi had a promoter whose name was Nathan of Gaza. Shabtai Tzvi eventually gets himself into enough trouble where he's told that he either has to convert to Islam or he's going to be executed. Shabtai Tzvi chose apostasy, chose to convert to Islam rather than be executed, right? And then he eventually dies, but his followers would then persist and insist that Shabtai Tzvi was in fact the Messiah, the son of Joseph.
Singer this morning. In regards to the concept of Mashiach, I have come to find that in what we would call, or what people would call, Messianic Jewish circles today, there seems to be an acceptance of, well, Yeshua or Jesus in the first century was not Mashiach ben David, since he did not gather the exiles, rebuild the temple, establish his kingdom on earth, but rather a focus more on, well, he was Mashiach ben Yosef, spoken of in rabbinic texts to come and suffer and die for the sins of the nation. And I'm just curious if Rabbi Singer had any insights into what the difference truly is between the concept of Mashiach ben Yosef and Mashiach ben David, and is this really just more of like a straw man argument being made by the Messianic community, or what exactly is that? So if he could provide a little insight, that would be wonderful. Thank you.
Cool. Yeah, that's been coming up a lot lately.
The reason why people are forced to do this, to engage in this kind of sophistry, torturous theological sophistry, is because the Hebrew Bible and the Christian religion are utterly incompatible. So you were quite right. We are told very clearly, and I encourage the viewers to go to Isaiah 11. That's just an example, but it's a good example. The reason Isaiah 11 is most notable is because not only do all Christians believe that chapter conveys an outline of who the Messiah is and what the Messianic age will look like, but it's like all there. So Isaiah 11 is really, if you want to know what it's supposed to happen, who it is, and that's the chapter. It's not the only chapter, but that chapter is really very, very concise. So as it turns out throughout history, when people claim to be the Messiah, or that claim was made for them, they, of course, will always fail the test of Isaiah 11. That's just an example. You can see the first 5 passages of Isaiah 2. You can view Ezekiel 37. In fact, you can view the last 12 chapters of the book of Ezekiel. There's many, many places to where the Messianic age comes into view. What is always the case is that, of course, the putative Messiah of any given time turns out to be false because he invariably fails to bring about the world peace, the universal knowledge of God, the ingathering of the exiles, the building of the temple, the resurrection of the dead, and preceded by Elijah the prophet in every single case. And in every one of these cases, Christianity, as an example, it means Jesus of Nazareth, moving on to I'll just take famous ones. Shabtai Tzvi, a false messiah of the 17th century. He had a kind of Paul figure. His name is Nathan of Gaza. He was his spokesperson. You have Jacob Frank, 18th century false messiah. What all their followers had to do is claim that they were, in fact, the Messiah, the son of Joseph. So I want to lay this all out. So this is a symptom, this is the red flag of a false Messiah. What does this all mean? Who are these individuals and what occurred here? So nowhere in the Hebrew Bible will you find the term Messiah, the son of Joseph. It does not exist. You will, however, find that term in the Talmud in Tractate Sukkah, page 52. Very simply, although they seem similar, like Messiah, the son of Joseph, and Messiah, son of David, sounds really similar. They are similar in that there's one feature about them that's very similar in that they're both eschatological figures, meaning that both Messiah, son of Joseph, and Messiah, the son of David, are part of the final redemption, the end of days, the Achras Hayom. However, that's all they share in common. They are both remarkably different. Messiah, the son of Joseph, there is a disagreement over whether that's one person or many people. My view is it's many people, and the grammar of Zechariah 12 would bear that out. But regardless, there are two views on that. In fact, as I've shared with you, I believe what occurred 2 years ago on October 7th was the Messiah, the son of Joseph. The key point is that it's a military attack where either one person or many people are killed in the context of the final war after the Jews have returned to Israel, after they have formed a state, after they've formed an army, and after they've captured Jerusalem. It's very important to read Zechariah 12:10 in context, the 9 passages leading up to it. If you don't bother. By the way, if you don't, you're going to have to explain to God why you didn't. And the reason I say that so tersely is because it's the only chapter in the book of Zechariah that is very easy to read. The other 11 chapters in the book of, the other 13 chapters in the book of Zechariah are not that easy. This one is. That means anyone, you can right now pick it up. You don't need any commentary. Just read it, and you'll understand exactly what you're encountering. So the key point is Messiah, the son of Joseph, that's the term in the Talmud, is an attack where people or a military person is killed. It causes tremendous trauma among the children of Israel. It causes enormous mourning among the Jewish people in that they repent and that they unify, and that immediately then triggers the Messiah, the son of David, who is a single person and a great-great-grandson of David and Solomon, thus fulfilling the Davidic covenant outlined in many places in the Hebrew Bible, including 2 Samuel chapter 7, verse 12 through 16. Okay, it's a very famous Davidic covenant. So they're not the same at all. However, if you don't have a working knowledge of Jewish literature, you can find this similar. As it turns out, the Mashiach, the son of David, is never called that in the Hebrew Bible. The Mashiach, who's from the house of David, is never called Mashiach in Tanakh. That's a post-biblical term. He's called a lot of things. He's called David. He's called the prince, not Mashiach. We do that today, and that's where people can trip up. Now, what happened in Jewish history when people failed to live up to the messianic expectations when they were false messiahs? Well, Jesus, it is said that he was the Messiah. He dies and fulfills nothing. The only thing he fulfills are things that we don't have access to, are things that are unfalsifiable. He's said to have been born of a virgin, right? There would be no way for us to know today if, in fact, he was supernaturally conceived, that he was born in the city of Bethlehem. We would have no access to that kind of record. You know, he went into Jerusalem in his triumphal entry on a donkey or two. We'd have no, it's unfalsifiable. Conversely, he brought about worldwide peace, universal knowledge of God, in gathered the exiles, building a temple. We would, of course, known about it today. Moreover, all the opposite occurred. And therefore, when the Messiah, the so-called Messiah, fails, his followers, some of them, of course, their beliefs are disconfirmed, and then they walk away from it. And I believe we see relics of that in the Christian Bible. In Matthew 28, when his followers go to see the resurrected Jesus in the Galilee, we're told a very striking thing, that some of them didn't believe it. Why is that there? Probably points to some people, their views were completely disconfirmed. But what is key is his followers would have to say that, he's the Messiah, the son of Joseph, who's supposed to be killed and basically have an ending that is not filled with all the glory described in Isaiah 11. And as I mentioned to you, the second most famous false Messiah would be Shabtai Tzvi. Shabtai Tzvi lived during the 1600s. Shabtai Tzvi had a promoter whose name was Nathan of Gaza. Okay, well, what happens is Shabtai Tzvi eventually gets himself into enough trouble where he's told that he either has to convert to Islam or he's going to be executed. Shabtai Tzvi chose apostasy, he chose to convert to Islam rather than be executed, right? And then he eventually dies, but his followers would then persist and insist that Shabtai Tzvi was in fact the Messiah, the son of Joseph. Well, it has nothing to do with the Messiah, the son of Joseph. It has nothing to do with Zechariah 12. I beg you, please, look. I get enough emails and comments in the YouTube channel to know that there are many of you who really enjoyed this program. And I'm very grateful for the thoughtful words that you share. Please don't trust me, because I want to train you to read it inside. Zechariah 12 occurs when the Jews return back to Israel, have Jerusalem, nations go to war against the Jews, a Jewish state. Jerusalem is a heavy, burdensome stone to all those who come against it. Okay? God takes the weakest of the Jews and turns them into warriors who are like David, even like angels, Lord of hosts. They are vested with power from on high. They are weakened, but somehow they are able to defeat all their enemies. Zechariah 12, verse 9. None of that happened in the first century. None of that happened during the days of Shabtai Tzvi. So this is very important. The Messiah, the son of Joseph, occurs after the Jews return. None of that happened in the first Christian century. In fact, not only wasn't the temple built, the temple was destroyed, the Jews didn't gather in, they were expelled, everything exactly the opposite, okay? So Shabtai Tzvi, again, is said to be, by his disciple, Nathan of Gaza, to be the Messiah, the son of Joseph. And then we have in the 18th century a complete lunatic named is Jacob Frank. This guy is claiming to be the Messiah. This guy, he was no doubt a psycho. He was a psychopath completely. I'm not going into him, but he was a complete, certifiable psychopath in every way you can imagine, and ways that you can't even imagine. But the key is that he eventually converts to Roman Catholicism. Okay, and he's so anti-Semitic, he's so crazy that the Catholic Church is going to excommunicate him because they go, "You're too crazy for us." Not kidding. Okay, so completely insane. But what is germane to our conversation is that what are his followers going to say? He's the embodiment. He is the reincarnation of the Messiah, son of Joseph, who was Shabtai Tzvi, who lived a century earlier. So when you hear the idea of Messiah, son of Joseph, always go, okay, I know what the Talmud's talking about, but I want to read the text on the inside. I want to read the original. That's why I always do this with you. What do I always do with you? I say, go back to the original and read it for yourself. I want you to get used to reading it, read the primary sources, like not rely on me. I want to train you to look at the text. And as it turns out, Zechariah 12 is the easiest chapter to understand in all the book of Zechariah. It would read like a chapter in the book of Judges or Joshua. which are easy to read. It's just very simple. So when I ask you to read it, and you don't need any commentary at all, you'll see the Jews have returned. It means it can't possibly have anything to do with the first century, can't have anything to do with the 17th century, can't have anything to do with the 18th century. So what's happening is Christian missionaries are desperate. They're misappropriating texts in order to somehow salvage a failed Messiah. The time is now. We are close, that we can see the coming of the true Messiah quickly in our time when all the nations will speak B'safa Berura in a pure speech. Thank you for your question. If you enjoyed this program, please like and subscribe.
אדון עולם אשר מלך בטרם כל יציר נברא לעת נעשה בחפצו כל